COVID-19, I've gotten real bad nuts from COVID, dude. Don't worry, nothing can stop us now.
A few moments later.
Mr. President, we are quiet. Let me finish this phone call. Yeah, and it's gonna be huge. What? Come in. Mr. President, the popularity has been dropping and trade unions are unhappy about the recent drop in wages. Impossible. My graph tells me that our wages has been increasing hugely. Mr. President, but it's upside down. What? How is this possible? Americans are the best at producing things. We win at everything. Explain this to me now. You see, sir, even though we have well-educated workers and a relatively high level of technology, other countries still have a comparative advantage over us. So let me explain this in terms of an awesome graph. So this is the graph of our domestic market when we are isolated from the rest of the world, when no one is allowed to engage in trade with other nations. Because there is no international trade, the market for domestic goods in America consists solely of American buyers and sellers. As figure 1 shows, the domestic price adjusts to balance the quantity supplied by domestic sellers and the quantity demanded by domestic buyers. The figure shows the consumer surplus and producer surplus in the equilibrium without trade. The sum of the consumer surplus and producer surplus measures the total benefits that buyers and sellers receive from participating in the domestic market.
Now, with the participation from the world market, we have to take into account the prevailing world price. Since the world price is lower than America's domestic price, America will become an importing country. In essence, sir, comparing the world price and domestic price before the trade has indicated that foreign countries have a comparative advantage over us.
So a graph for domestic products when free trade is allowed looks something like this. This graph shows that at world price, the domestic quantity supplied is less than the domestic quantity demanded. The difference between the domestic quantity demanded and the domestic quantity supplied is bought from other countries, and America becomes an importing country. In this case, the horizontal line at the world price represents the supply of the rest of the world. Let's assume the supply curve to be perfectly elastic, because the world economy is large and close to infinite, and America can buy as many goods as it wants at world price. Now, consider the gains and losses from trade. Once again, not everyone benefits when trade forces the domestic price to fall. Domestic consumers are better off as they can buy the goods at a lower price, and domestic producers are worse off as they have to sell goods at a lower price to remain competitive. Before free trade, producer surplus consists of area B plus C, and after the free trade, the producer surplus is decreased to only area C. In order to compensate for this decrease in surplus, our local firms will have to cut down on wages in an attempt to maintain a comparative advantage. We now import more manufactured goods from the third world than any other advanced economy. These third world nations have a huge comparative advantage over America. Wages in countries such as China is only about 4 to 5% of America's. Given that 6% of our GDP consists of our imports from third world countries, many jobs in the manufacturing industry has gone to foreign firms. Workers with less formal education will see their jobs shipped overseas or find their wages driven down by the ripple effect as other countries with similar qualifications crowd into their industries and look for employment to replace the jobs they lost to foreign competition. And sir, lower prices at Walmart aren't sufficient compensation.
These are the arguments for restricting trade. Firstly, the jobs argument, that free trade destroys domestic jobs. But it should also be noted that free trade creates jobs and increases consumer surplus. Secondly, America should not depend on foreign industries for important resources such as steel. And lastly, restricting trade protects infant industries from unfair competition resulting from free trade.
Okay, I know what to do. Did you see? Let's close our borders and ban all imports. No! Sir, if you do that, we are stepping to isolationism and we'll be all screwed. So, how about we impose tariffs and make trade more fair for American firms? That way we can win bigly, I'm sure of it.
Let me explain my winning strategy. Under free trade, the domestic price equals to the world price. A tariff raises the price of imported goods above the world price by the amount of the tariff. Domestic suppliers can now sell their goods for the world price plus the amount of the tariff. Thus, the price of goods, both imported and domestic, rises by the amount of the tariff and is therefore closer to the price that would prevail without free trade. Because the tariff raises the price of goods, it reduces the domestic quantity demanded from QT1 to QT2 and raises the domestic quantity supplied from QS1 to QS2. Thus, The tariff reduces the quantity of imports and moves the domestic market closer to its equilibrium without trade. Our domestic suppliers will win bigly from this. Because the tariff raises the domestic price, domestic producer surplus increased by area C, and domestic consumer surplus reduces by area C plus D plus E plus F. In addition, the government raises revenue. Although there's a deadweight loss of area D plus F, at least my business friends and the trade unions will continue supporting us, and I can last another term. Alternatively, we can introduce import quotas, which will be able to gain more revenue for our firms if we sell the import licenses to foreign firms. The Trump company, America, can generate even more revenue.
Sir, while that may work in the short term, we are losing out on the other best alternative, which is to embrace free trade. When we embrace free trade, we get an increased variety of goods. We get lower costs through economies of scale. Sir, shielding companies from foreign competition will only result in market failure and prevent the invisible hand from working its magic. Sir, any serious march backward toward protectionism will constitute a major failure of economic policy. Experience has shown that once imposed, trade restrictions are very difficult to remove because vested interests then have a stake in perpetuating them. Protectionism also breeds foreign retaliation, making barriers doubly difficult to unwind.
So with protectionist measures, American firms can win in the short term, and my popularity will rise. One more term!
But sir,
What? You dare to oppose my plans? You are fired!